The stars outside the observation window looked peaceful. Commander Dae-ho Kim knew better. He stood on the bridge of the UESS Indomitable, Earth's newest warship, and watched 3 alien vessels approach. They were beautiful ships, all smooth curves and glowing lights. They looked nothing like human ships with their rough edges and weapon batteries. "They're hailing us again, sir," said Hannah Park from the communications station. She was young for a tactical officer, barely 30, but she had good instincts. Those instincts were telling her something bad was coming. "Put them through," Dae-ho said. He straightened his uniform, though he knew it wouldn't matter. The aliens didn't care about human customs. The hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. The creature that formed was tall, maybe 3 meters, made of something that looked like living crystal. It glowed with a soft blue light. This was Velthar, representative of the Galactic Council. Dae-ho had met him before 3 months ago, right before everything went wrong. "Commander Kim," Velthar's voice came through the translator, smooth and calm. Too calm. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's recent actions." Recent actions? That was a polite way of saying it. 3 months ago, a council fleet had arrived at Earth. They called themselves peacekeepers. They demanded that humanity surrender its military, accept council protection, and follow council laws. When Earth refused, the council tried to blockade the solar system. They said it was for humanity's own good. The blockade lasted 2 weeks. Then Admiral Min-ho Lee, commander of Earth's defense fleet, decided humanity wouldn't live in a cage. The battle was short and brutal. Human ships weren't as advanced as council ships, but humans had been building weapons for thousands of years. They knew how to fight. When the smoke cleared, the council peacekeeping fleet was destroyed. Every single ship. The council wasn't used to losing. "We're listening," Dae-ho said, keeping his voice neutral. Velthar's crystalline face showed no emotion. Maybe he couldn't show emotion. "Humanity has violated the Concordat of non-aggression. You developed faster-than-light weapons without council approval. You refused protectorate status. You destroyed council vessels carrying out lawful peacekeeping operations." "Lawful," Hannah muttered under her breath. Dae-ho shot her a warning glance. She fell silent. "The council offers mercy," Velthar continued. "You have 3 cycles to comply with the following terms. 1. Immediate cessation of all military operations. 2. Dismantling of all human military vessels and weapons platforms. 3. Acceptance of council administration over human space. 4. Surrender of all FTL technology to council oversight." Dae-ho felt his jaw tighten. Around the bridge, he could see his crew's reactions. Anger, disbelief, fear. 3 cycles was about 72 hours in Earth time. The council wanted humanity to disarm completely in 3 days. "And if we refuse?" Dae-ho asked. He knew the answer, but he wanted to hear them say it. Velthar tilted his head slightly. "Then the council will deploy the enforcement armada. We have pacified 200 civilizations over the past 3,000 years, Commander. We do not wish to add humanity to that list, but we will if necessary. Consider this a kindness. Many species were not given a choice." The hologram flickered and died. Velthar was gone. The bridge was silent for a long moment. "Sir?" Hannah said quietly. "What do we do?" Dae-ho looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the council was preparing its enforcement armada. He'd seen the intelligence reports. 3,000 ships, weapons that could crack planets, commanders who had never known defeat. They would come to Earth expecting surrender. They would come expecting humanity to be grateful for the chance to live as servants. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," Dae-ho said, "and power up all weapon systems." "Sir, the council demanded we power down." "I know what they demanded, Lieutenant. Power up the weapons." On Earth, in a bunker deep beneath the streets of Seoul, Defense Minister Ji-won Choi was having the worst day of her career. The room was full of shouting people. Diplomats wanted to negotiate. Scientists wanted more time to study council technology. Military officers wanted to fight. Everyone wanted something different. "We can't win a war against the entire galaxy." Ambassador Kyung-Soo Park slammed his hand on the table. He was a good man, honest, but he didn't understand what was at stake. "We need to find a diplomatic solution." "There is no diplomatic solution," Admiral Min-ho Lee said. He was older, gray-haired, with scars from a dozen conflicts. "The council doesn't negotiate with species they consider inferior. They give orders and expect obedience. We can surrender now or surrender later. Those are the options they're offering." Then we surrender now and live, Kyung-soo said. We rebuild. We wait for a better opportunity. We surrender now and we die, Minho replied. Maybe not today. Maybe not for 100 years. But they'll control everything about us. What we build, where we go, what we learn. They'll cut away everything that makes us human until we're just another servant species grateful for scraps. Ji-won listened to them argue. She'd been listening for 3 hours. Time was running out. The council wanted an answer in 3 days. Every hour they debated was an hour they couldn't spend preparing. Enough, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at her. We're not surrendering. Minister, please, Ma Kyung-soo started. I said enough. Ji-won stood up. She was small, barely 160 centimeters, but when she stood, people paid attention. Ambassador Park, you're a good man. You want to save lives. I respect that. But the council isn't offering to save lives. They're offering to take everything we are and everything we could be. She turned to Admiral Lee. How long can we hold them? Against the enforcement armada? In a straight fight? Minho shook his head. We can't. They have too many ships, too much firepower. But we don't need to fight fair. We just need to make them regret coming here. Operation Wildfire. Minho nodded slowly. It's risky. Extremely risky. We'd be committing everything. But yes, if we're going to fight, Wildfire is our best shot. Ji-won looked around the room at all the frightened, angry, determined faces. These were humanity's best and brightest. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, engineers, people who had spent their lives building a future among the stars. The council wanted to take that future away. Get me President Kang, Ji-won said. Tell her we need authorization for Wildfire. 2 hours later, President Sumi Kang addressed the planet. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She told them about the council's ultimatum. She told them about the enforcement armada. She told them that humanity faced a choice between freedom and survival, and that sometimes those things weren't the same. They want us to be grateful, Sumi said, looking directly into the camera. Her voice was steady, strong. They want us to thank them for the privilege of serving them. They think we should be happy to give up everything our ancestors built, everything we've achieved for the promise of safety under their rule. She paused. Our answer is no. Around the world, people watched. Some cheered. Some cried. Some prayed. But everyone understood. War was coming, the kind of war humanity had never fought before, not against each other, but against an empire that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. On the Indomitable, Daeho received his orders. Operation Wildfire was active. All ships were to maintain full combat readiness. All weapons were to remain online. And when the enforcement armada arrived, humanity would not run. They would not hide. They would fight. Hana looked at the sensor displays showing empty space. They'll be here soon, she said. I know, Daeho replied. Let them come. We're ready. He wasn't sure if that was true. Nobody was sure. But it didn't matter anymore. The council had demanded that humanity cease fire. Humanity's answer was simple, no. Not now, not ever. They were just getting started. The enforcement armada arrived like a storm. 3,000 ships dropped out of FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system. They formed a wall of metal and energy that stretched across space. Each ship was huge, some as large as cities. Their weapons glowed with power. They had come to make humanity kneel. On the flagship, Fleet Commander Zephyral reviewed the tactical data. Humanity had maybe 200 ships scattered throughout the system. Most were small, crude things built with primitive technology. This wouldn't even be a battle. It would be an execution. Broadcast our demands on all frequencies, Zephyral ordered. He was confident.
He had done this before many times.
Young species always resisted at first. They always thought they could fight. They were always wrong. The message went out in every human language. By order of the Galactic Council, humanity is commanded to power down all weapons, surrender all military vessels, and prepare for Council administration. You have 1 cycle to comply. Resistance will be met with total force, then they waited. The Council expected fear. They expected desperate negotiations. They expected surrender. What they got was silence, complete absolute silence. No response came from Earth or any human ship. It was like shouting into a void. Humans, Zephyral muttered. They're probably arguing among themselves. Give them time. Fear will do our work for us. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Dr. Yuna Han checked her displays one last time. Everything was ready. Project Prometheus had been 50 years in the making. 50 years of secret research, hidden facilities, and technology the Council knew nothing about. All stations report green, said her assistant, a nervous young man named Tae-sung Baek. We can activate on your command. Yuna took a deep breath. She was a scientist, not a soldier. She'd spent her life building things, not destroying them. But she understood what was at stake. The weapons she'd created were terrible things. Brutal, excessive. Designed not just to destroy, but to terrify. History is watching, she said quietly. Let's hope we're making the right choice. She pressed the activation button. Throughout human space, hidden weapons platforms came online. Ships that had seemed powered down suddenly blazed with energy, and in the asteroid belt, weapons that the Council had never imagined began to wake up. The first engagement happened near Jupiter. A Council patrol of 50 ships was checking the area, scanning for human military assets. They found the UESS Retribution, commanded by Captain Jamin O. It was a small ship by Council standards, maybe 400 meters long. The Council patrol surrounded it. Human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately, the Council commander transmitted. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Jamin looked at his crew. They were scared. He was scared. But fear didn't matter anymore. Weapons free, he ordered. Show them what humans do. What happened next became legend. The Retribution launched weapons the Council had never seen before. Kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to 95% of light speed. They weren't missiles that could be shot down. They were solid metal moving so fast that nothing could stop them. When they hit Council ships, they went through shields like they weren't even there. The Council patrol tried to return fire, but the Retribution was already moving. Human ships were smaller, faster, built for quick strikes. And then came the nuclear-pumped X-ray lasers. Humanity had learned to weaponize the same fusion reactions that powered stars. The beams burned through Council armor like paper, 40 seconds. That's how long the battle lasted. When it was over, the Council patrol was gone. Not damaged, not disabled, completely destroyed. 50 ships reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The Retribution had minor damage. The Council commander's last transmission was just a scream. What are you? What kind of monsters? Then Static Jamin sent a message back to the enforcement armada. Just 4 words. The kind that fight. Admiral Minho Lee watched the battle reports come in from his command center on Earth. The Council was confused, disorganized. They'd expected an easy victory. They'd gotten a nightmare instead. Time to make it worse. Execute Phase 2 of Operation Wildfire, he ordered. All ships, all stations. Hit them everywhere at once. Human ships throughout the solar system attacked simultaneously. The Council had spread out, confident in their superiority. Now that confidence killed them. Small human strike groups fell on isolated Council vessels. They used tactics the Council had never seen. Ramming attacks, self-destructive charges, weapons that seemed designed by madmen. Near Mars, Captain Yoonji Nam commanded the destroyer USS Defiant. Her ship was dying, atmosphere venting, engines failing. A Council dreadnought moved in for the kill. Yoonji's crew was already dead or dying. She was alone on the bridge, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Sorry, Mom, she whispered. Then she programmed one final course correction. The Defiant accelerated directly at the dreadnought, fusion core overloading. The Council ship tried to evade, but it was too big, too slow. The Defiant hit it at full speed and exploded. The dreadnought broke in half. The Council called it a terror tactic. Humans called it doing whatever it takes to win. Back on the flagship, Zephrol stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. 400 ships. He'd lost 400 ships in 2 weeks. This wasn't how wars were supposed to go. Young species didn't win against the Council. They couldn't, it was impossible. These humans, his second-in-command said quietly, they fight like wounded animals. They don't know when to quit. Then we'll teach them, Zephrol snarled. But he didn't sound confident anymore. He sounded afraid. In his laboratory on Earth, engineer Seok Jin-yoon unveiled his latest creation to a group of stunned military officers. It looked simple. A metal harpoon maybe 3 meters long with a simple thruster system. But simple didn't mean weak. We call it the Impaler, Seok Jin explained. He was young, brilliant, and completely uninterested in making weapons that looked nice. It punches through energy shields using kinetic force alone. Once it's through, it buries itself in the target ship's hull and deploys internal explosives. The blast propagates through the ship's structure. How effective is it? Admiral Lee asked. Sokjin pulled up a video. It showed a captured Council shield generator being hit by a test impaler. The harpoon went through the shield like it didn't exist, hit the target, and detonated. The explosion tore the target apart from the inside. Very effective, sir. We can manufacture thousands of them quickly. They're cheap, brutal, and the Council has no defense against them. Admiral Lee watched the video again. This was what humanity had become. Not elegant warriors, but desperate survivors willing to use any weapon, any tactic. Begin mass production immediately. President Sumi Kang spoke to the planet again. The war was going better than anyone had dared hope, but she wouldn't lie to people. The cost was terrible. Thousands of soldiers dead, ships destroyed, stations damaged, and the Council was still out there, still dangerous. They want us to fear them, she said. They want us to believe that resistance is hopeless. They're wrong. Every day we fight is a day we survive. Every ship we destroy is a ship that can't threaten Earth. Our ancestors didn't cross oceans and split atoms and reach for the stars just to surrender when the first bully showed up. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Council has sent us a new message. They're calling for a ceasefire. They want to negotiate. They say both sides should stop fighting while we talk about peace. Around the world, people waited for her next words. Some hoped for peace. Some feared a trap. Everyone was tired of war. I sent the Council's message to Defense Minister Ji-won Choi and Admiral Min-ho Lee, Sumi continued. They investigated. The Council is buying time. While they talk about peace, they're bringing in reinforcements. New ships, bigger weapons. They're also spreading lies about us throughout the galaxy, calling us monsters and savages. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. So here's our answer to their ceasefire demand. We're not stopping. We're not slowing down. We're not giving them time to regroup. We're just getting warmed up. On the Indomitable, Commander Daeho received the new orders. No ceasefire. No pause. Push harder. Make the Council regret coming to human space. He gathered his crew in the briefing room. The Council thinks we're tired, he said. They think we'll jump at the chance for peace. They don't understand us yet. We're humans. We're the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We're the species that looked at impossible problems and solved them anyway. Hannah Park raised her hand. Sir, intelligence reports say they're bringing in their Apex fleet. Those are their best ships, the ones they haven't used in centuries. Daeho nodded. I know, let them come. We'll destroy those ships too. He wasn't sure if he believed that. The Apex fleet was legendary. Ships that could destroy planets. Commanders who had won 1,000 battles. But it didn't matter if he believed it. What mattered was that his crew believed it. What mattered was that humanity kept fighting. The message went out to every human ship, every station, every soldier. The Council wanted a ceasefire. The Council wanted humanity to stand still while they prepared the killing blow. Humanity's response echoed across the solar system and beyond. We're just getting warmed up. Fleet Commander Zephyral had stopped sleeping. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the casualty reports. 400 ships had become 600, then 800. Now he'd lost over 1,000 vessels in 6 weeks. 1,000 ships destroyed by a species that shouldn't even have spaceflight yet. The problem wasn't the technology, though human weapons were terrifyingly effective. The problem was the humans themselves. They fought wrong. They didn't follow any logical patterns. When they should retreat, they attacked. When they should surrender, they exploded. When they should die, they found ways to take Council ships with them. Another report, Commander. His aide's voice was tired. Everyone was tired. The patrol group near Saturn was ambushed. All ships destroyed. The humans used some kind of self-replicating mine. One mine became 10, then 100, then thousands. Zephyral slammed his hand on the console. How? How does a primitive species have weapons we've never seen? We've been building ships for 3,000 years. Because they've been killing each other for 10,000, said a voice behind him. Velthar, the Council representative, stood in the doorway. His crystalline body seemed dimmer than before, like the light inside him was fading. I've been studying human history, Commander. It's horrifying. They've fought more wars than we can count, used every weapon imaginable, nuclear, biological, chemical. They've killed billions of their own kind. Then they're savages. No, Velthar said quietly. They're survivors. Every war taught them something new. Every conflict made them better at killing. We thought we were bringing civilization to a young species. We were wrong. We started a fight with a species that's been preparing for war since they learned to make fire. Near Earth, Captain Yunjinam's sacrifice had become a symbol. The image of the Defiant crashing into a council dreadnought played on every screen, every station. Humanity saw courage. The council saw madness. Both were right. Engineer Seok Jin Yoon worked 18-hour days in his laboratory. The impaler harpoons were in mass production now, but he was already designing something worse. He called it the Cascade Missile. It was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its effectiveness. "Show them," Admiral Minho Lee said. He'd come to the lab personally to see the new weapon. Seok Jin activated a simulation. The Cascade launches like a normal missile, but when it gets close to the target, it splits. Each piece splits again and again. One missile becomes 8, then 64, then hundreds. Each piece has its own guidance system and warhead, so one missile becomes a swarm. Exactly, and because they split so close to the target, point defense can't stop them all. Something always gets through. Admiral Lee watched the simulation show a council ship being overwhelmed by hundreds of tiny missiles. It was overkill. It was excessive. It was perfect. How soon can we deploy them? 2 weeks for the first batch. A month for mass production. You have 1 week. Whatever resources you need, you get them. Seok-jin didn't argue. He just nodded and got back to work. Sleep could wait. Everything could wait until humanity was safe. On Earth, Ambassador Kyung-Soo Park was doing something that would change the war completely. He was talking to aliens, not council members, but other species, the ones the council controlled. The ones who'd been forced to surrender their militaries and accept council rule. The conversations were secret, hidden in encrypted channels that changed every few hours. The council monitored everything, so they had to be careful. But word was spreading. Humanity was fighting. Humanity was winning. And humanity was looking for friends. "Why help us?" asked a representative from a species called the Devery. They were small, peaceful beings who'd been under council rule for 200 years. "What do you gain?" "Freedom," Kyung-Soo said simply. "Yours and ours. The council wants to control everyone. They want to decide what you can build, where you can go, what you can learn. We're not asking you to fight. Just share information. Tell us about council weaknesses. Help us help you." The Devery representative was quiet for a long moment. "If the council discovers we're helping you, they'll destroy our world. If the council wins, they'll control your world forever. You're slaves who don't realize you're wearing chains. At least give yourself the chance to be free." The Devari agreed to help. So did 3 other species. Small things at first. Maps of council supply routes, information about ship weaknesses, fleet movements. But every piece of information was a weapon in human hands. Species Coordinator Tai Sung-Baek compiled the intelligence and presented it to the War Council. He was a xenobiology expert, not a spy. But the war had changed everyone's jobs. "We have allies now," he explained. "They can't fight openly, but they're willing to help in secret. The council isn't as united as they want us to believe." Defense Minister Ji-won Choi studied the data. "How many species are under council control?" "At least 40 that we know of. Maybe more. Most were forced into submission centuries ago. They've forgotten what freedom looks like." "Then we'll remind them," Ji-won said. She looked tired. Everyone looked tired. But they couldn't stop, not yet. "Every council ship we destroy is a message to the galaxy. You can fight back. You can win." The council's apex fleet was coming. Everyone knew it. Intelligence reports tracked their movements through council space. 500 ships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. Ships that had conquered civilizations. Ships that had never been defeated. Commander Daeho studied the intelligence reports on his ship. The apex fleet would arrive in 2 weeks. They would come to the Sol system expecting to find humanity broken and Earth in ruins. Instead, they would find something else. He just had to figure out what. "Lieutenant Park," he said to Hana, "pull up everything we know about the apex fleet. Tactics, weapons, ship designs, everything." Hana worked quickly. "They favor overwhelming firepower and frontal assaults. Their ships have heavy forward shields and massive energy weapons. They're designed to break through any defense by sheer force. So they're not subtle." "No, sir. Why be subtle when you have that much power?" Daeho smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Because subtle enemies are harder to kill. Get me Admiral Lee, I have an idea." The plan that emerged was insane. That was the general consensus among the War Council. Admiral Lee called it suicidal. Defense Minister Jiwon called it desperate. President Sumi called it the only chance they had. We turned the entire solar system into a trap, Daeho explained, standing before the holographic display. We seed everything with weapons. Mines, platforms, automated systems. Everything hidden, everything waiting. When the Apex fleet arrives, they won't see a military formation. They'll see Earth apparently defenseless. And when they move in for the kill, we spring the trap, Admiral Lee said slowly. Hit them from every direction at once. They're designed for frontal assaults. Let's see how they handle being surrounded. It means pulling back all our ships, Jiwon said. Abandoning our forward positions. Letting the Council think they've won. It means surviving, Daeho replied. The Apex fleet is too powerful to fight conventionally. So we don't fight conventionally. We make them come to us, on our ground, on our terms. President Sumi made the decision. Do it, pull back all ships. Activate every defensive system we have. If we're going to make a stand, we make it at Earth. The withdrawal took a week. Human ships throughout the system fell back to Earth orbit. The Council celebrated. They broadcast messages about humanity's inevitable defeat. They claimed the war was over. They were wrong. Dr. Yuna Han oversaw the placement of the trap. Thousands of weapons platforms were deployed. Stealth mines that couldn't be detected until they exploded. Automated railguns hidden in asteroids. Missile pods scattered throughout the system. And something new, something terrible. The Cascade missiles that Seok Jin had designed. If this doesn't work, we lose everything, her assistant Tai Sung said. If this doesn't work, we were going to lose anyway, Yuna replied. At least this way we go down fighting. The Apex fleet arrived exactly when intelligence predicted. 500 ships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They were magnificent and terrifying. Each ship was a work of art, all deadly curves and overwhelming firepower. They'd been built to end wars, and they'd done their job perfectly for 3 centuries. Warlord Krendak commanded the fleet from his flagship. He was ancient even by Council standards. He'd fought in wars that happened before humans discovered fire. He'd conquered species that had been building civilizations while humans lived in caves. He was not impressed by humanity's resistance. The human ships are gathered around their homeworld, his tactical officer reported. All of them. They've abandoned their defensive positions. Because they know they've lost, Krendak said. They're making a final stand at Earth. It's almost admirable. Almost. He broadcast a message to the human fleet. This is Warlord Krendak of the Apex fleet. You have fought bravely. You have surprised the Council. But this ends now. Surrender, and you will be treated with mercy. Resist and I will reduce your homeworld to ash. Commander Daeho received the message on the Indomitable. Around him, his crew waited for his response. Outside, the Apex fleet was forming up, preparing to advance. They looked invincible. Maybe they were. But humanity hadn't gotten this far by accepting what seemed impossible. The Apex fleet moved through the solar system like a tidal wave of metal and death. 500 ships, each one powerful enough to destroy a city with a single shot. Warlord Krendak watched the displays showing human ships clustered around Earth. They looked small, frightened, defeated. They're not even moving, his tactical officer said. They're just waiting. Good, Krendak replied. Let them wait. Let them think about what's coming. Fear is a weapon too. The fleet advanced slowly, deliberately. They wanted humans to see them coming. They wanted Earth to watch its protectors stand helpless against overwhelming force. This was how the Council won wars, not just by destroying enemies, but by destroying hope. They were halfway through the system when the first mine detonated. A Council cruiser simply disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire. Then another mine exploded. Then 10 more. Then 100. The space around the Apex fleet turned into an inferno. Evasive maneuvers, Krendak shouted. But the mines were everywhere, hidden in asteroids, disguised as debris, scattered throughout the system. The fleet's shields held against most of them, but some got through. Ships took damage. 2 destroyers were destroyed completely. Where did they come from? Someone asked. Then the railguns opened fire. Hidden weapons platforms built into asteroids started shooting solid metal slugs at incredible speeds. The projectiles were simple, crude, just chunks of metal accelerated to extreme velocities. But at those speeds, they hit like nuclear bombs. A battleship took a direct hit. Its shields flickered and died. The next shot went through its hull like paper. Return fire, Krendak ordered. Find those platforms and destroy them. The Apex fleet's weapons blazed. Energy beams reached out across space, vaporizing asteroids and everything in them. They destroyed hundreds of weapons platforms. But for everyone they destroyed, 2 more opened fire. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a weapon. Commander Deho watched from the Indomitable as the trap closed. The Apex fleet was powerful, but they were fighting blind. Every asteroid could hide a weapon. Every piece of debris could be a mine. The Council had better technology, but humans had home field advantage. All ships execute Operation Ragnarok, he ordered. Show them what we really are. The human fleet that had been waiting in Earth orbit suddenly moved. Not away from the Apex fleet, toward it. Every ship accelerated to maximum speed. Weapons hot, targeting systems locked. They weren't retreating. They were attacking. Insane, Warlord Krendak whispered. They're actually attacking. Against the Apex fleet. They're insane, maybe they were. But insanity was working. The human ships moved fast, hit hard, and didn't stop. The UESS Retribution, commanded by Captain Jamin O, led a group of destroyers straight at a Council battleship. They launched everything they had. Missiles, railgun rounds, the new Cascade weapons that split into swarms of smaller missiles. The Council battleship's shields held for about 10 seconds. Then the Cascade missiles overwhelmed its defenses. Hundreds of small explosions rippled across its hull. The ship broke apart, its fusion reactor going critical. The explosion took out 2 more Council ships nearby. Keep moving, Jamin shouted. Don't give them time to target us. Near Mars, Captain Donghyun Lim commanded a strike force of 12 ships. Their target was a Council carrier, a massive ship that launched fighter craft. The carrier was protected by a screen of smaller ships, but Donghyun had studied Council tactics. They always protected their carriers the same way. They were predictable. Jump, he ordered. His ships engaged their FTL drives for just a few seconds. They disappeared from Council sensors and reappeared inside the protective screen, right next to the carrier. The Council escorts were too far away to help. The carrier was alone. Donghyun's ships opened fire at point-blank range. The carrier tried to activate its shields, but it was too late. Railgun rounds punched through its hull. Missiles found its hangar bays and detonated inside. The carrier broke into 3 pieces, still trying to launch fighters as it died. Jump out, Donghyun ordered. His ships vanished again before the Council escorts could react. That's how you kill a giant. Fast, brutal, and gone before they know what hit them. The battle spread across the entire system. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't honorable. It was pure, desperate violence. Human ships used tactics the Council had never seen because the Council had never fought an enemy willing to sacrifice everything. Engineer Seok Jin Yoon watched the battle from Earth, his heart pounding. The Cascade missiles were working better than he'd hoped. But he had one more weapon, something he'd been saving. Something so dangerous he'd almost destroyed the plans. Sir, he said to Admiral Minho Lee over the comm, I need authorization to deploy the firebreak system. Explain. It's a network of satellites around Earth. Each one has a nuclear reactor and a shaped charge explosive. If the Council breaks through our fleet, if they get too close to Earth, we can detonate them all at once. It'll create a wall of nuclear fire. Anything that tries to pass through will be destroyed, including our own ships. Yes, sir, including our ships. Seok Jin's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. It's a last resort. A line the Council can't cross. Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. Authorization granted. But only on my direct order. Nobody else can activate it. Understood, sir. The battle raged for 3 days. 72 hours of continuous combat. Ships died on both sides. The space around Earth became a graveyard of twisted metal and frozen bodies. But slowly, impossibly, the Apex fleet began to lose. Warlord Krendak couldn't believe what he was seeing. He'd lost over 200 ships. 200! Against a species that shouldn't have been able to destroy one of his vessels. His tactical displays showed human ships everywhere, moving in patterns that made no sense, using weapons that shouldn't exist. Pull back, he ordered. The words felt like poison. He'd never retreated before. Never. But this wasn't a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. All ships withdraw to defensive formation. Sir, we can't retreat, his second-in-command protested. The Council isn't here, Krendak roared. I am, and I will not sacrifice my fleet for pride. He pulled up the casualty reports again. So many ships, so many good commanders, all destroyed by humans who didn't know when to quit. Commander Deho saw the Apex fleet pulling back. His crew cheered. Some cried. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. The invincible Apex fleet was retreating. Pursuit? Hanapark asked. Deho wanted to say yes. He wanted to chase them down and destroy every last ship. But his fleet was hurt too. 300 human ships destroyed, 20 million people dead. The Indomitable itself had taken heavy damage. One more push might break them. No, he said quietly. Let them go. We've made our point. He opened a channel to the retreating Apex fleet. He didn't gloat. He didn't threaten. He just stated a simple fact. We're still here. And if you come back, we'll destroy you too. Warlord Krendak received the message in silence. The human commander was right. If they came back, the humans would destroy them. This young species had done what no one had done in 3,000 years. They'd defeated the Apex fleet. On Earth, President Sumi Kang addressed the planet. She looked exhausted. Everyone looked exhausted. But they'd won. Against all odds, against the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, humanity had won. The cost was terrible, she said. 300 ships, 20 million lives, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, children, all gone. We'll remember them. We'll honor them. But we can't stop to mourn yet. She paused, letting people process her words. The Apex fleet retreated. But the Council is still out there. Other fleets. Other weapons. This war isn't over. It's just beginning. But we've proven something important. We can win. We can fight the most powerful empire in the galaxy and win. Ambassador Kyung-Soo Park's secret communications network exploded with messages. Species that had been under Council control for centuries suddenly saw hope. If humanity could defeat the Apex fleet, maybe freedom was possible. Maybe the Council wasn't invincible. 3 species openly revolted, refusing to send ships or resources to the Council's war against humanity. 5 more quietly stopped cooperating. The Council's authority was cracking. Defense Minister Jiwon Choi received a transmission she'd been hoping for. It came from the Council, but not from Warlord Krendak or Fleet Commander Zephrol. It came from Velthar, the Council representative who'd delivered the first ultimatum. Minister Choi, Velthar's hologram said, he looked different, dimmer, tired. The Council wishes to open formal peace negotiations. Jiwon's face showed nothing. The last time you wanted to negotiate, you were buying time to bring in reinforcements. I know. We were wrong. The hardliners thought one more fleet would break you. They were wrong too. Velthar's crystalline body seemed to pulse with something that might have been emotion. You've changed the galaxy, Minister. Species we've controlled for centuries are watching humanity. Some are starting to rebel. The Council's authority is being questioned for the first time in 3,000 years. Good. Is it? Velthar asked. What comes next? War across the entire galaxy. Chaos, we maintained order. We kept peace, you kept control, Jiwon replied. That's not the same as peace. Real peace doesn't require anyone to surrender their freedom. Commander Deho stood on the bridge of the damaged Indomitable. The Galactic Council chamber had been quiet for 3,000 years. It was a place of order, where decisions were made calmly and disagreements were resolved through ancient protocols. Today, the chamber was chaos. 12 species all shouting at once, their translators struggling to keep up. We must attack again, roared Representative Cormac, his massive form towering over the others. The humans destroyed the Apex fleet. If we don't respond with overwhelming force, we look weak. We are weak, Velthar replied quietly. His crystalline body was dim, barely glowing. 5 of our member species have withdrawn support. 3 have openly revolted. The humans didn't just defeat our fleet, they broke our authority. Then we rebuild our authority with force. With what? Velthar gestured to the casualty reports floating in the air. We've lost over 1,500 ships, our best commanders, our most powerful weapons, and the humans are still there, still armed, still ready to fight. How many more ships do you want to sacrifice? The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer. The Council had ruled the galaxy through the certainty of their power. Now that certainty was gone. If humanity could defeat them, who else might try? 5 Council species withdrew from the coalition completely, declaring neutrality. They didn't join humanity, but they wouldn't fight them either. 3 younger species did more than that. They openly refused council authority, demanding the same independence humanity had claimed. The message was clear. The old order was dying. Ambassador Kyung-Soo Park worked around the clock, coordinating with the species that had contacted him. His office was a maze of displays showing communications from across the galaxy. Species he'd never heard of asking questions about freedom, about independence, about standing up to the council. "We can offer military assistance," he told a delegation from a species called the Torven. They were insect-like beings, peaceful traders who'd been under council control for 400 years. "But only for defense. We won't help you conquer anyone. We're not trying to replace the council's empire with our own." "Why not?" the Torven asked. "You have the power now. You defeated the Apex fleet. You could take what you want." "Because that's what the council does," Kyung-Soo replied. "We're fighting for the right to be free. Everyone's right to be free, not just humanity's." The word spread. Humanity wasn't trying to conquer. They were trying to liberate. Species that had been afraid to speak up suddenly found their voice. The council's grip on the galaxy began to slip. On Earth, the debate about the council's peace offer was fierce. President Sumikang sat at the head of the table, listening to her advisors argue. Some wanted to press their advantage. Some wanted to accept peace before more people died. Everyone had good reasons for their position. "We can't trust them," Admiral Minho Lee said. His hair seemed even grayer than before. The battle had aged him. "They've lied before, they'll lie again." "But we're exhausted," Defense Minister Ji-won Choi replied. "Our fleet is damaged. Our resources are stretched. If they send another armada, I don't know if we can win again." "Then we rebuild faster," said engineer Seok Jin-yoon. He had dark circles under his eyes from months of constant work. "We have allies now. Species willing to share technology. We're not alone anymore." "The question isn't whether we can fight," President Sumi said. "The question is what we want to achieve. Do we want to destroy the council? Do we want revenge? Or do we want something different?" The room fell quiet. Everyone looked at her. She'd led them through the darkest days of the war. Now she had to lead them through whatever came next. "I want freedom," she continued. "Not just for us, but for everyone the council has controlled. That's what we fought for. That's what 20 million people died for. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to accept their peace offer, but on our terms." 3 months later, delegates from across the galaxy gathered on a neutral station in deep space. The station had been built specifically for these talks, funded by multiple species, controlled by none. It was a symbol of the new order being born. The human delegation arrived first. Ambassador Kyung-Soo Park led them, along with Defense Minister Ji-won Choi and Commander Dae-ho Kim. They came armed with data, with proposals, and with the memory of everything they'd sacrificed to get here. The council delegation arrived next. Velthar was there, along with representatives from the 12-member species. They looked different somehow, smaller, less certain. The weight of their defeat showed in every movement, but the most important arrivals were the others. 20 species sent delegates, young civilizations that had been under council control. They'd been invited by humanity, much to the council's displeasure. This wasn't going to be a negotiation between two powers. It was going to be a conversation about the future of the galaxy. "We should begin," Velthar said. His voice was quiet, lacking the absolute authority it had carried before. "Agreed," Kyung-Soo replied. "Let's talk about freedom." The negotiations lasted 6 months. They were difficult, often angry. The council wanted to maintain its authority. The younger species wanted independence. Humanity wanted to ensure this never happened again. Compromises were made. Lines were drawn. New rules were written. Slowly, painfully, a new order began to emerge. The Treaty of New Dawn was signed on a day that would be remembered across the galaxy. Its terms were simple but revolutionary. The Galactic Council would remain as an administrative body, coordinating trade and communication between species. But they would no longer hold military supremacy. Every species had the right to maintain their own defense forces. No species could be forced into protectorate status, and most importantly, a new multi-species defense alliance was established to ensure no single power could dominate the galaxy again. Humanity was a founding member of the new alliance, so were 15 other species. They called it the Free Systems Coalition. It wasn't perfect, it would face challenges, but it was a start. Back on Earth, people celebrated. The war was over. The peace was real. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through permission, but through determination. Commander Deho stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Indomitable, watching council ships leave the solar system peacefully. It felt strange after months of seeing them as enemies. Tactical Officer Hannah Park stood beside him, also watching the ships depart. "Do you think it'll last?" she asked. "The peace?" Deho considered the question. He'd spent months fighting these ships, watching friends die, making impossible choices. Peace felt almost unreal. "Someone will test it eventually," he said. "Someone always does. There are always empires that want to expand, bullies that want to dominate. But now they know something important." "What's that, sir?" "That we don't back down, that we don't surrender. That if you come for Earth, if you threaten humanity's freedom, we'll fight, and we'll keep fighting until we win or there's nothing left to fight with." Hannah smiled slightly. "We're always getting warmed up?" "Exactly." In her laboratory, Dr. Yunahan was already designing next-generation weapons, not because she wanted war, but because peace required preparation. The galaxy had learned that humanity could fight. Now they needed to remember it. Engineer Seok Jin Yoon worked alongside her, developing new defensive systems. The Cascade missiles had proven effective, but he was already thinking about what came next. Better shields, faster ships, more efficient weapons. Peace was good, but staying ready for war was smart. Species Coordinator Tai Sung Baek compiled reports from across the galaxy. The Free Systems Coalition was growing. More species were joining every month. Some were former council protectorates finally gaining independence. Others were young civilizations just reaching space, glad to find allies instead of overlords. President Sumi Kang addressed the planet one final time as the wartime president. She'd led them through the darkest days. Now she could step back and let humanity rebuild. "We lost 20 million people," she said, her voice carrying across the world. 20 million brothers and sisters who died defending not just Earth, but the idea that freedom matters more than safety, that independence matters more than comfort, that the right to choose your own path matters more than anything. She paused, looking directly into the camera. "The council came here expecting us to surrender. They thought we'd be grateful for the chance to live under their rule. They were wrong. We chose to fight. We chose to risk everything. And because of that choice, not just humanity, but dozens of other species are now free." Around the world, people listened. Some were crying, some were smiling, all were proud. "The war is over," Sumi continued. "But our work isn't done. We have allies to support, technology to share, a galaxy to explore. And we have to stay ready, because there will always be someone who thinks they can push us around. Someone who thinks humanity will back down." She smiled, and it was a fierce, determined smile. "Let them try. Let them come. They'll learn what the council learned. When you pick a fight with humanity, you better be ready for a war. Because we're not just getting warmed up anymore. We're here. We're free. And we're not going anywhere." Admiral Minho Lee retired after the peace was signed. He'd fought enough wars for one lifetime. But before he left, he made sure the defense fleet was in good hands. Young commanders like Deho, who understood that the price of freedom was eternal vigilance. Defense Minister Ji-won Choi stayed on,